The Formula 1 circus has arrived in Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix, and Porsche have released an extremely strong statement after the cheating allegations were made against them by multiple teams last time around. Now, if you're not aware with what's going on in this situation, multiple teams launched a protest against Porsche as they felt that their car, throughout the majority of last season, was in fact illegal, and they managed to find ways to get around the situation with the F1 governing body. This has come after Porsche have had a very tricky start to the season where their car has just all of a sudden seemed completely undrivable. Porsche though are making it extremely clear that their car was indeed legal, and Reese has hit back hard in the media after they were disrespecting him for his world title win, stating that was it really a legitimate title victory. Now, Tom is somebody that wasn't part of the Porsche team that dominated last season. However, he says that he wouldn't have joined a Formula 1 team that wasn't doing it right. So straight away, Porsche are back on the defensive as they tried to clear their name after the cheating allegations over their car's legality throughout the course of last season. But where is it going to take them now that they've made their allegations very clear in terms of where they stand in the whole matter? Well, the F1 governing body will be running investigations to try and clear everything up and get the situation over and done with and to remove the tension. But for now, the off-track drama continues to stay for a little bit longer. Taking a look at the race news heading into the weekend, it was Ferrari and McLaren that were matching each other in practice, which is very encouraging for the Scuderia as they've actually gone ahead and brought a new floor for this weekend. Meanwhile, Porsche have also started bringing some upgrades as they have fast-tracked a very minor front wing update. Now, for Ferrari, with regards to their floor, they can already see gains with this new upgrade to try and bring them closer towards the front of the field on a more consistent basis. As for Porsche, what was the purpose of their minor front wing update? Well, Porsche are expecting a major upgrade after the Singapore Grand Prix when we head to the Middle Eastern rounds. So for the time being, Porsche are doing some very minor tweaks here or there so that it is optimized, ready for the big package to come, which they then expect them to get them right back into contention with the rest of the pack. And then finally, McLaren believe that they have got the outright fastest car on the grid in race trim. And they believe that is going to be super important at a track like China, where tyre wear is going to be critical. They believe they've got the best tyre wear on the grid, and with a track like this that requires good tyre wear, they feel that while Ferrari will definitely be a massive threat in this race, they believe that they're the ones that should be keeping an eye out on the rest of the field because they believe they've got what it takes to beat them in the end. But let's go straight into qualifying and the race for the Chinese Grand Prix and see who's going to come out on top between any of the drivers on the grid. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. We're here for the Chinese Grand Prix and it's time for qualifying. If you end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. It goes a hell of a long way for me. So starting things off then with our banker lap here in Shanghai. Instantly, I already felt a lot more comfortable at this track versus the previous two rounds in Japan and Australia. And we crossed the line to go P5 on our banker. But of course, we're going to get knocked down. That's just kind of standard. But as you can see, we're currently in P7 at the moment. So actually, the banker lap wasn't as bad as I thought it was. What was bad was that exit off the last corner to set us up for this final flying lap. But crucially, I've only had to do the one lap, and I can get straight on with just lap number 2 right to the end of the session here. So as you can see then, making our way in towards the first corner, the super long right-hander there, then down in towards the left-hand. We lost a little bit of time in turn 1, but we gained it back on the exit of turn 2 with a much cleaner run through there. 0.2 per second up now on our previous best lap, and as you can see, it's a 1:23 or 23.3, sorry, in the first sector, and it's a good lap there. Lost a little bit of time on entry, but again, we gained that time back on exit, so we seem to be doing a better job on this lap at just maximising the overall performance of the car through each of the corners as we now make our way through the middle sector here. We lost a little bit of time again through those two corners, and on the exit here, we gain a tiny bit of that back again. We're 0.4 up now on what we set the first time around. So far, so good on this current lap time here now as we make our way through this bank section of the track here. This is the hardest part on the track to get right because the car is so unbalanced on the rear end for me, which was what I was finding that I was really struggling to maximise the performance out of that corner. But we're about 0.6 of a second up then on our previous best laps. This has been a great lap so far from us. We've got a couple of corners left still to navigate here, down towards the hairpin now for the last time really in this track here. And as you can see, navigating that quite nicely, a little bit unstable on the rear end. And now towards the last corner we go, braking nice and late, a little bit wide though through the last corner. We've lost a little bit of time, dropped a couple of tenths, but across the line. With qualifying done and dusted, let's get straight into the grid then and see where everyone's going to line up for this race. Lewis Hamilton is on pole position for Ferrari here at Shanghai with a 128.596. He set the benchmark that nobody could beat. Oscar Piastri was just 7/100ths of a second shy of him as the checkered flag fell, with Sam qualifying in P3. For the second Ferrari car, a 10th off pole. Ferrari's floor update clearly doing them well. Bottas maintains a strong start to his season with 4th place, 2/10 off the pace, while Carlos Sainz gets his best qualifying for Audi, 2/10 off the pace. George Russell qualifies 6th for his best qualifying for BMW, 2/10 of a second off a pole, and then Tom qualifies in P7 for is also our best qualifying of the season. Daniel Ricciardo starts P8 for Jaguar, half a second off the pace, while Reese is in P9 for the second Porsche car, 6/10 off pole. Ollie Behrman is 10th for Aston Martin, ahead of Kimi Antonelli, who is P11 for Mercedes. Albon lines up P12 with Isaac Hadjar starting in 13th. Vettel a little bit further down the order in P14. It's a disaster of a qualifying for the next 3 cars. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen all over a second off pole position, and starting 15th, 16th and 17th is far from ideal. Nico Hülkenberg starts 18th, and then Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly line up P19 and P20, a whopping 2.2 and 2.8 seconds off the fastest lap time. Right, so it's time for the Chinese Grand Prix, and as you can see, there's actually some rain that's forecasted towards the end of the race. We do need to be careful about that, but we're going to start on the hards, go to the mediums, and then see how we can fare off. So here we go then, on the track then, the 5 lights are now off, and the race is on, and it's not a great start from us on the hard compound tyres, instantly overtaken by the Jaguars, side by side now with Reese as we go in towards turn 1. A little bit of overspeed though coming in there as we've got the Aston Martin of Behrman, that is, trying to make a move on us, and now we're trying to get around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo and not lose any more places in this Grand Prix, and we do just that. And I think we've actually just let Behrman through in all of that. In fact, we haven't let him through. He's right on our tail now here as we head our way down in towards the final part of the first sector here, and we're going to make a lunge down the inside on George Russell. So we've actually started off badly, but we're now in a net +1 in terms of our race starting position, and let's see now what we can do with Carlos Sainz in the Audi. Best qualifying session of the season, I think, for Audi in general in this season, and now Carlos Sainz has got an opportunity here to try and work some magic, but it looks like Lewis Hamilton still leads this Chinese Grand Prix ahead of Piastri. Then it is Sam, followed by Bottas. Then we've got Sainz and ourselves having a little look there in towards the banking, but nothing to be done on that particular occasion. And now again, this corner really need to be careful with, because that's why the rear end is so unstable in that section. I just can't get it right throughout the entirety of the weekend. But now, as you can see here, down the straight, Russell is having a Bottas, is having a look here at Sam down the straight, going in towards the hairpin. So that's going to be an interesting one as they fight for position. As for us, we're going to send it down the inside on Sainz. Late braking maneuver, a little bit wide though, but we just about hold it within the confines of the track limits there as Sam is about to defend against Valtteri Bottas. As into the last corner we go. That's not quite the track limits that we were looking for there. Hamilton though leads the race, as now you can see ahead, there goes Bottas here, but we need to do some more defending because Sainz here doesn't want to give up the position just easily against ourselves, but on this occasion we're able to stand our ground and stay in front of the Audi driver to make up 2 places off the start, as these two keep fighting ahead here between the Mercedes and the Ferrari, and it is going to be Bottas that stays in front, but Sam there still trying to find a way through. Let's have a look at the start though and see how it all pans out from the rest of the grids here. So as the lights go out here, it's a good start from Hamilton. He maintains the lead going in towards the first corner. It was actually nearly a Ferrari 1-2 there, but Sam not quite able to make that move stick there on Piastri. You can see he's slightly ahead, and then Oscar just comes back at him in that secondary phase of the start there, going in towards the first few corners. As for us there, that's us forcing the Jag out wide, and that allows us then to stay in front. Speaking of Sam, this was his start, and I believe probably he got the best start out of the front 3, but as you can see now, as they accelerate towards the first corner, he's side by side with Oscar Piastri. There's a little bit of contact actually between Piastri and Sam there going in towards the first corner, and a second bit of contact then in the mid phase of that first corner. So fair play to the two of them for not crashing in terms of breaking their cars, but yeah, they managed to stay in play there. This is on board with George Russell now and his race start. It wasn't an amazing start. However, there was someone in front there, one of the Mercs, that actually got initially a poor start. So that was Bottas there, who actually initially got a very poor start off the line, and then all of a sudden we see Russell now trying to fight his way through in that. So it was actually Bottas on the defensive, but he sent it up the inside of turn 1 and maintained position as Russell there with a little bit of contact. Now lap 2 of the Grand Prix here, and we're trying to attack now the two drivers in front. As you can see, we've got Bottas here struggling a little bit for performance and some pace here, so we're going to try and make a move here down the inside if we can into the last corner. It's a little bit nip and tuck there, but it's not working out for Valtteri Bottas. A little bit slow in this phase of the race, so we'll use the DRS here down the start-finish straight, and we do indeed get in front of Bottas, up into 4th now in the Chinese Grand Prix. Next up the road is going to be Sam in the Ferrari, so let's try and hunt him down and get on with this Grand Prix now as we hit the fastest first sector of the race so far as we catch the curb. Huge slide on the back end, and somehow we haven't gone spinning round there in the middle sector. That'll certainly woken me up if I wasn't already sleepy throughout the course of this Grand Prix. As I was saying about this Porsche, it really struggles throughout the cornering on the track here, but this is a problem now because that massive slide that we have has been super costly for the Mercedes of Bottas. Look at that front wing. He actually went into the back of us after we made that slide, and he's broken his front wing. So now for Bottas, he's going to have to come into the pits and change that wing, and completely ruins his afternoon here this weekend. But now there's a fight here between the two German manufacturers of Audi and BMW. Russell now trying to get down the inside here of Carlos Sainz into turn 1. Sainz will do what he can to defend the position. They're not sure, Audi, how long they'll be fighting at this far forward in the field, well, ever. So you've got to make the opportunity last while you know your car's not brilliant. But Russell gets the move done on Carlos Sainz in a lovely overtake. And now there goes Daniel Ricciardo on Behrman, making the move stick. Speaking of Ricciardo and Behrman, back on board with the two of them now because they've both got DRS here down the straight. But it seems like Behrman is just using a little bit more of the battery here to try and make the move on Daniel, because they both had DRS on each other. One of them on the back of Sainz and one of them on the back of the other of the drivers. But Behrman makes the move stick now, and there is Alex Albon trying to get a little bit fancy with his teammate. And then on the next lap here, Behrman now has managed to break free of Daniel Ricciardo, but Albon here now making a move on his teammate. And then we've got Norris, who's actually made up quite a few places from this Grand Prix. Remember, he started all the way down in 15th place. Reese there, you can see, is getting caught up in the background of all of this. So he's having a shocker of a Chinese Grand Prix after starting 9th in this race. I'm not even sure where Leclerc is yet in all of this, but here goes Lando Norris now passing Alex Albon, and that's another place gained in this race for him, and he really is motoring along quite nicely in this Grand Prix. But unfortunately for Lando, it's not going to be as plain and simple as you might think, because Albon kind of fancies that place back as they go down the inside in towards turn 1. Albon now versus Norris. They're going to keep this one side by side, so who can be the bravest on the track and try and maintain position? Norris, though, will have the inside for turn 2. That should be enough for him, but Albon, though, gets a brilliant drive off the exit of turn 2, and now as they pressure and pass their way down in towards the end of the first sector, Norris now on the outside. Albon's got the inside. He's got the better drive, but Norris gets a great exit himself then in return, and that's a beautiful launch there for Lando Norris versus Alex Albon. But the two of them, great fighting between the pair of them. And now we're going to skip a little bit forwards here to Ollie Behrman, who's now caught up to the back of Carlos Sainz here. So Sainz in the Audi, whilst having a great qualifying, seems to be struggling a little bit in the race here because Russell now is pulling away from him, and he's fallen into the clutches of Behrman, who's really trying to fight hard here to get this one done here. And Behrman just forced wide there, but this time around now, as you can see, Behrman he has got the DRS down the start-finish straight. This should be a simple move. Well, I say it's a simple move, but he's having a bit of issues there with the DRS. It's all kicking off, though, between the Red Bull and the two Jaguars, because Albon is back past Lando Norris again. Ricciardo wants to get in front of Lando Norris. They all want to fight for that position on the track here. Norris, though, will have to keep working hard to get these Jaguars not only passed, but also cleared. Because remember, it took Behrman a lap to get past these drivers and to clear them. But Norris here is really struggling now because he's defending again on the outside now versus Ricciardo. Ricciardo will get the traction on the exit here. That's going to give him the position. Norris loses another one here, and we're back on board of the fight then with Behrman and Sainz. This time, Behrman's DRS seems to be working nicely, and on this occasion, Behrman brakes nice and late down the inside on Carlos Sainz. Move is done for the Aston Martin driver, and some more progress is being made. Lap 9 of the Grand Prix now, and finally, we're starting to make some progress in our Grand Prix. We lost out trying to when we lost the back end of the car in terms of the gap between ourselves and Sam, but now we're at the crossover phase where the hard tyres are starting to become the better tyre compounds than the mediums that are now dropping off for my competitors, meaning with the DRS now, we can have a go at Sam heading in towards the hairpin, but we're actually going to close our DRS here and try and set him up for the start-finish straight here, or maybe even switch back him before the start-finish straight. We'll have a look, but Sam's got the position covered, so now down in towards the last corner, and you can see we get a brilliant drive off the final corner with the DRS now down on the start-finish straight. It's going to be a simple overtake here, and it's going to put us up into third now in the Chinese Grand Prix. That's the move done versus the Ferrari. Now, the critical thing is can we pull away from these two Ferrari drivers, or are we going to struggle to keep him at bay? We'll find out as the race continues onwards, but at the front of the field now, it's not one Ferrari that's struggling for pace, it's two that are struggling for pace, because here comes Oscar Piastri, who's closed the gap now to Hamilton in this Grand Prix. So here comes Oscar down the start-finish straight, not the finish straight, the back straight here, and he's going to try and make the move in towards the hairpin. He goes, Piastri versus Hamilton. Oscar looks like he's going to have this one on Lewis as they go down in towards this hairpin. It's nip and tuck between the two of them. I think Hamilton, though, fighting hard here, down into the last corner. Lewis stays in front, but Oscar's going to get DRS down this straight, so it's going to be quite simple for Oscar, who retucks back into the slipstream and leads the Chinese Grand Prix for McLaren. Lewis Hamilton's lead has gone after 11 laps, and now he'll have to see if he's got the pace to keep up with him. Lando Norris is all up in the fighting here. Both Jaguars are pitted and are out of his way. Now he's got to fight against Vettel in the Renault. And this is going to be a little bit of a tasty one here, because of course Vettel left Red Bull to go to Renault. But it was actually quite a simple move there in the end. Lap 12 of the Grand Prix. We've got a yellow flag in the background there, so somebody's having a bit of a problem as we're just trying to keep on pressing in our race here. We've actually dropped Sam by quite a considerable distance, and unfortunately, for somebody that's not going to finish this race, will be Lando Norris. He's unfortunately pulling over with a mechanical problem, and all of his hard work that he's already done in this Grand Prix is for nothing, because his race is now over. So that means it's all down to his teammate Pierre Gasly to do the work, and unfortunately, if you have a look at the drivers that are around, he's not really in a position where he's fighting for good places here, because the drivers that are just starting the back straight in the background have already stopped in this race. They've made their first stop, so it's not ideal in this stage of the Grand Prix to be in that position, but he does make the move on Antonelli, so now he's just got to keep pressing. Lap 15 of the Grand Prix, what have we been up to? Well, haven't been able to catch Oscar and Hamilton. However, I was able to drop Sam massively. Like, it didn't come up on my radio to say that he had a problem, but I could assure you that I'm confident Sam had some type of issue, because he was lapping in the 134s, something like that range. And then as soon as I passed him, he dropped into the 36s, even to the 37s at one point. We were able to maintain our pace, and we made the hard tyres work. Now we're going on to the medium compound tyres, and we're going to crack on with it in this race. And as you can see there, we've got a bit of a tricky one. Oh, we've just rejoined right behind one of the Mercedes drivers, but we're actually going to just muscle our way through here and stay in front of, I think that's Valtteri Bottas that we've actually rejoined in front of there. So that's a little bit of a lucky one for us in this stage of the race. But now Oscar Piastri leads the Grand Prix from my teammate Reese, who is yet to stop in this Grand Prix. He's actually stayed out on his hard compound tyres, and Hamilton now is down the back straight here trying to make a move on Reese, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. There goes Lewis Hamilton with the DRS open, and down in towards the hairpin they go. Hamilton makes his move around the outside. Reese is on worn hard tyres, so Reese isn't really going to be a threat to Hamilton, and as you can see, Lewis makes that pass. He's already pulling away in this stage of the race. Speaking of Sam and all of his problems are not really getting any better because he's just been overtaken by Bottas in this race. Now Vettel fancies a run at him going in towards the hairpin, but Seb not quite close enough to make that move stick. And you can see now that he is really under pressure. Back on board here with Carlos Sainz. He's catching up to the Jaguar of Daniel Ricciardo, who's trying to defend the position here. So, oh, that was a little bit interesting there from Carlos Sainz. Thought he was going to go for it down the outside, but backs out of it. And now we've got Sam again fighting heavily with the Renault of Vettel here. So a man that was sitting comfy in P3 is now really having a difficult race of things. From the first two races, we've seen him have difficult qualifying sessions and then have a decent fight back in the race. This time around, though, he's really struggling in the Grand Prix to get anything going for him. He can't drop these Renaults. He's passing them, and then they're coming back at him again now, because here comes Sebastian Vettel with another fight. Hulkenberg is there in the background trying to have a go at it. Meanwhile, also just behind those lot, Reese has just overtaken Kimi Antonelli, and he's already now caught up to the back of this lot here, because Reese, remember, also started on the hard compound tyres. Did the same strategy as what I have done in this Grand Prix, so it means he's on medium tyres, and he's flying now in this race, because Sam now is fighting hard with Vettel. Reese is all over the back of Hulkenberg in the scrap now for the lower ends of the points, as they now battle their way on through. This is going to get interesting now, because the two in front have held themselves up here. Vettel now is going to try and go for it on Sam in towards turn 1. Reese will try and go for it on Hulkenberg into turn 1. Vettel makes the move stick on Sam into the first corner. Reese, in the meanwhile there, has managed to overtake Hulkenberg. He's just got to use the outside line of turn 2 to solidify his position ahead of Nico. The traction's there for Reese, and through it goes. And now, all of a sudden here, he's on the back of Sam. Down with the straight here with some DRS now. Towards the hairpin they go. Reese then breaks nice and late. Sam will have to do what he can to defend the position, but the fresh mediums that Reese has got working nicely as Sainz there has caught back up to Behrman in the fight for, I think that's P4, P5 in this Grand Prix for them. Sainz there is actually overtaking Ollie Behrman, but I'm focusing on the fight just further below here as Reese now gets a good run. Here comes Sam though to try and attack into turn 1. Not quite, unfortunately for him. Reese maintains position, and there's going to be no movement on that front. Lap 22 of the Grand Prix, we've got yet another yellow flag as we're struggling on the banking as the rain now has started to fall in this Grand Prix, and Kimi Antonelli is the second man on the road that won't finish this Grand Prix. Another mechanical issue then in this Grand Prix, and it's the Mercedes of Antonelli that's out of this Grand Prix, and that is a real shame for Kimi. Wasn't a great race so far, but it certainly could have improved, and things can always change just like they are now, because the rain is really falling hard now in this circuit, and it's time actually to come into the pits. It doesn't look like it, but it's actually wet enough now that we need the intermediate tyres on, and we've got to get off these mediums and get onto those inters. That's Hamilton ahead, and now all of a sudden we're just about going to get ready to get onto a fresh set of tyres. Out goes Piastri, no problems at all. Out goes Hamilton, no problems at all. And for us though, it's time to get off of these tyres, get the inters on, and get on with our Grand Prix and see what we can do in the wet. This will be the first time we've done any wet weather running in season 13, and somebody that's beating me out of the pit lane is the safety car. The safety car's been deployed in this Grand Prix. I'm not sure why that's been deployed. It possibly could have been because of Kimi Antonelli pulling over to the side of the track, but this is going to spice things up even further now, because we're all out there on intermediate tyres, but crucially, we're now going to be bunched up for the final 3 laps of this Chinese Grand Prix. Piastri is your race leader. Lewis Hamilton is the man in second. We're in third. Sainz is in fourth in this Grand Prix. But now we've got a real test on our hands, because if we struggle on these intermediate tyres, then the rest of the field is going to eat us up for dust. And there we go then, back underway in the Chinese Grand Prix after the safety car period. Now we can get fighting. Let's see what pace we've got, as we've got a great run here on Hamilton going towards turn 1, but we'll stay behind him for the time being, build some temperature in these intermediate tyres, and see how we get along. Piastri running the race in the lead now. He's been leading since he overtook Hamilton on lap 11 of this Grand Prix. As for us though, we've been running in P3 since we overtook Sam on lap 9 of this race. So let's see who can fight and who's not got the ability to get on with it in this Grand Prix. Lap 26 of the race now at the end of the lap here. We're really struggling. We've got no grip, no performance here on the banks now of this circuit. Down the back straight here. Sainz has got a good run here. Will he go for it? We're going to have to defend the position. Use the battery as well to try and hold off against the rampant Audi driver because we're struggling for pace, struggling for grip, braking early for the hairpin just so I can then release the brake to try and solidify the position, and we just about get it slowed down there. But all of a sudden now, we've gone from just trying to chase the top two on our mediums to it changing to wet, and we're in trouble now. But on lap 27 of the Grand Prix here, down the back straight we go. Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri are in the lead of this race here. Hamilton's those catching Piastri. Oscar's having to go defensive. Hamilton goes to the outside. Back end slides there for Lewis Hamilton. Will he take the lead here of the Chinese Grand Prix and steal it from Oscar Piastri? There's just a lap to go after this one here as they cross towards the last corner. Hamilton leads the Chinese Grand Prix. He's overtaken Oscar Piastri, and with the last lap now underway, has Oscar got anything in return to fight back here? Can we fight back? We've got some performance in our Porsche. Can we steal the win if we can overtake Oscar quite early on? We'll have a look in towards turn 1 here, but it's just not enough there. I don't have enough confidence to go for that one. Flip it to the outside though. Try and cut back here on Piastri. There's a chance here. The McLaren driver's flustered. Hamilton's breezing clear now in this Grand Prix. He's got electrifying pace in these intermediate tyre conditions as we brake nice and late now. Trying to have a look at Oscar. Oh, it's not close enough though to fight the McLaren driver. Now we're getting into the portion of the track here where I'm worst in the wet. I'm not as quick in these high-speed cornering, but Oscar there just broke very early there going into that portion, but annoyingly that set us back a little bit. But Oscar here looks like he's really struggling because we're catching him now hand over fist after losing out in the first part of those high-speed corners. We're really chasing him down here in this race, but we're running out of time now. We have got the back straight to go for something here, or can we go for something special? Here we go, dive bomb down the inside of Piastri into the banked corner, and we've managed somehow to keep it on the track and stay in the confines of the circuit to move up into second place in this Grand Prix. But it's not over yet because there's still a long straight that can be costly for me in this race. We're going to have to defend and use our whole battery here. Here comes Oscar on a run now down towards the hairpin. We're going to just deploy everything we got now going in towards this hairpin, and we got a break now nice and late here, but make the corner if we can, which we do on that occasion. And now with the straights just about coming to an end here, Lewis Hamilton though rounds the final corner. He's going to take his second win of the season for Ferrari. We're going to cross the line, steal second at the end, and it's Oscar Piastri that will finish in third for McLaren. What an end to the Chinese Grand Prix that was. And for Lewis Hamilton, what a start to the season he is having for Ferrari on his return. Of course, the last time I remember him being in Ferrari was season 9, so for him to be back in the Scuderia and taking the first 2 race wins of the season, the first 3 races of the season is super impressive. For myself, I pretty much finished whereabout I probably should have finished, really. I mean, second or third, I would have taken it. I definitely had great race pace. Hamilton and Oscar were in a different league throughout a lot of that Grand Prix, but in the wet, built the confidence and got on with it. So I can't complain. Piastri will be disappointed with that. He was comfortably leading and probably would have won this race had the wet weather not come in the safety car. Carlos Sainz finishes in 4th for Audi. He'll be delighted with that race because he's been excellent this weekend, and Audi need that because they've struggled so far this season. Ollie Behrman finishes in 5th for Aston Martin, and another driver that will be delighted. It's a great finishing position for him this weekend. And again, with Vettel, I think he started like 14th, did Sebastian Vettel in this race. So to come across the line and finish 6th is quite frankly an excellent drive from Sebastian Vettel. Rees finishes in 8th for Porsche. He'll feel satisfied to recover back up to 7th in this race. However, the fact is that he definitely could have achieved more after starting P9 because he just lost out in the dry weather. The wet weather actually saved him a little bit. Charles Leclerc, great comeback drive from him from 15th or so on the grid to finish in 8th. Sam will be angry finishing in P9 after his dramas. And Hülkenberg manages to get a point for Renault. So Renault have had a brilliant race weekend because they're picking up their first points of the season, and it's a double points finish for them. Looking at the second half of the table now, Liam Lawson just misses out on the points for Aston Martin in P11 ahead of Alex Albon, who finishes 12th for Jaguar. Bottas managed to recover to P13 in the end. A decent fight back actually from Bottas, and he did set the fastest lap of a 132.445, but it wasn't enough to get any points. Daniel Ricciardo finishes in 14th for Jaguar ahead of Verstappen, who couldn't fight back in P15. Awful race for George Russell. He was in the points ahead of Sainz at one stage, but it just lost out, and he finishes in 16th ahead of Hadjar, who's 17th on the road. Gasly could only get P18 for Red Bull, and then Antonelli and Norris were the two drivers to DNF. With that being said and done, how does the Drivers' Championship look after the Chinese Grand Prix? Well, Lewis Hamilton is back in front in the championship. He's on 56 points and now has an 11-point gap over Oscar Piastri, who's moved up to second in the championship. But the gaps are super tight because Piastri's on 45 points, Charles Leclerc's on 44 points, and I'm also on 44 points, meaning the top 4 drivers are separated by 12 points in the Drivers' Championship, with plenty of racing still to go. Valtteri Bottas and Lando Norris maintain their position in the championship despite not scoring points, while Sam and Reese are on 18 points and 12 points. They are 38 and 44 points off the Drivers' Championship lead, and in fact Carlos Sainz and Behrman are also on 12 points in the championship. The next race for us is the F1 Journey Singapore Grand Prix, traditionally one of my best tracks, but we never know how things are going to pan out in this series. Looking at the Constructors' Championship now, McLaren still lead the Constructors' Championship, but the gap has been shrunk over this past race weekend, with Ferrari now on 74 points, meaning they've cut the gap down to 15 points between themselves and McLaren. We in the Porsche team are sitting pretty in P3 with 56 points, just under, about 18 points that is, behind Ferrari, and building a gap now between Red Bull and Mercedes, who both didn't score points this weekend. Audi move up to 6th in the championship. They're now on 14 points, while Aston Martin, despite scoring big points today, dropped down to 7th in the championship. Renault are on 9 points, getting their first points of the season. It moves them in front of Jaguar, who've scored the solitary points, and BMW had a big chance today to get points in their tally for a long time, but it isn't to be. They're on 0 still. That is it though for the Chinese Grand Prix. Let's get a look at the post-race notebook, see what the teams and drivers had to say after this weekend. Finally then for the weekend, it's the post-race notebook. Lewis Hamilton gets his second win of the season, making it 2 out of 3 for him so far in this championship. Tom manages still 2 at the end, ahead of Oscar Piastri, who finishes in 3rd, despite leading the Grand Prix all the way up till the end when he was overtaken. Finally, speaking of Oscar Piastri, he believes that Ferrari are able to fire up their tyres quicker throughout the course of their weekend. He felt like that the reason that he wasn't able to get past and defend against Lewis Hamilton on the final stint was because the Ferraris are better at firing up their tyres, generating the temperature. This was also the same at the start of the race when Hamilton was able to get ahead of Oscar Piastri and stay ahead until Oscar eventually caught him on lap 10 when the Ferrari's tyres then fell away. It was disappointing though for Sam, as it was confirmed that he at points in the Grand Prix lost deployment from his battery, which is why he fell off the cliff in terms of his overall pace. It's a disappointing start to the season for Sam, and it is also for the championship, world champion should we say, Reese. He knows that he must improve if he is to defend his title. Reese is aware that there is a big upgrade in the pipeline for Porsche, which should hopefully eliminate all of the weaknesses that they've been suffering. But for the time being, the championship cannot fall away from him to the point where it's too hard to climb back up to the top when the time is right for them to go at it again. But that is it for this episode of the F1 Journey. If you guys have enjoyed it, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. And I will catch you guys for the Singapore Grand Prix next time around. Thank you for watching. Take care all.